Welcome to Story Scrolls. My childhood was a tale of two sisters, living under the same roof but in entirely different worlds. My sister Clara was the golden child. Everything she touched seemed to turn to sparkle, or maybe it was just that our parents were always there, ready to sprinkle glitter on her path. For her 16th birthday, she got a brand new convertible, cherry red, just like in the movies. For her high school graduation, she was gifted a trip to Europe, a month-long adventure to find herself among ancient ruins and Parisian cafes. Me, I was the other one. The practical one, the one who was told to be realistic. For my 16th birthday, I got a savings bond that would mature in 10 years. For my graduation, I got a firm handshake from my dad and a gentle, "Now it's time to figure it out. Figure it out." Those three words became the soundtrack to my life. While Clara was posting sun-drenched photos from Santorini, I was figuring out how to balance two part-time jobs while attending community college. While she was choosing between designer handbags, I was figuring out which brand of instant noodles offered the best value. It wasn't that I was jealous of her things. It was the blatant disparity, the feeling of being an afterthought in my own family. I'd come home, exhausted from a double shift at the diner, smelling like stale coffee and grease, to find them all laughing at a story Clara was telling about her latest shopping spree. They'd pause, look at me, and my mom would say, "Oh honey, you look tired. Make sure you get some rest." Then they'd turn back to Clara, and the bubble of their shared joy would close, leaving me on the outside once again. My dream was to be a graphic designer. I loved art, color, and the way you could tell a story with just an image. I showed my parents my portfolio once, my heart thumping with a desperate hope. My dad glanced at it, nodding slowly. "It's nice, honey, but is there money in it? You need a stable career." The conversation quickly shifted to Clara's new plan to open a boutique after she finished her business degree, by the way, that they were paying for at a prestigious private university. They even fronted the money for her first inventory, a collection of trendy clothes she bought on a business trip to Los Angeles. So I figured it out. I worked my fingers to the bone, saving every spare dollar. I transferred to a state university, living in a tiny cramped dorm room. I took out loans. I ate ramen more times than I can count. My nights were spent under the dim glow of a desk lamp, hunched over my textbooks and design projects, while the sounds of other students partying echoed outside my window. I never asked my parents for a dime. I knew the answer would be a variation of "money is tight," followed by a detailed explanation of the costs associated with Clara's latest venture. Birthdays were the loneliest. I'd get a perfunctory text message, HBD, sometimes not even that. Meanwhile, Clara's birthdays were lavish affairs, parties that my parents would spend weeks planning. I stopped expecting a call, a card, anything. It hurt less that way. After graduation, I landed an internship at a small design firm. The pay was abysmal, but the experience was priceless. I was the first one in the office and the last one to leave. I took on every project, no matter how small, and poured my soul into it. Slowly, I started building a name for myself. I freelanced on the side, sacrificing sleep and my social life to build my portfolio and my savings. Meanwhile, Clara's boutique was a disaster. She had great taste but zero business sense. She spent lavishly on store fixtures and marketing parties, but neglected the basics, like inventory management and customer service. The money my parents had given her vanished like smoke. They kept pouring more in, convinced that she just needed a little more help to turn the corner. They refinanced their house. They drained their retirement accounts. All for Clara's dream. A few years later, I took a leap of faith and started my own design agency. The first year was terrifying. I lived off instant coffee and sheer determination, but my hard work paid off. I landed a major client, then another. My agency grew, and soon I was hiring my own team. I bought a small condo in the city, the first place that ever truly felt like mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted, with bold colors and art I loved. It was my sanctuary, built with my own two hands. The news from home came in trickles, mostly through a sympathetic aunt. Clara's boutique had finally gone under, leaving a mountain of debt. My parents had lost everything. The big family house I grew up in was sold. They moved into a small rented apartment. Clara, unable to cope with a life without a safety net, moved in with them. The cherry red convertible was long gone and the European photo albums were gathering dust. And then, my phone rang. It was my birthday. I was sitting in my beautiful sunlit living room, sipping coffee and looking out at the city skyline. I almost didn't answer the unfamiliar number, but I did. Hello? Honey? Is that you? It was my mother's voice, hesitant and strained. I was so stunned I could barely speak. Mom? Happy birthday, sweetie, she said, her voice overly bright. My dad chimed in on the speakerphone. Happy birthday, kiddo. We were just thinking about you. I stayed silent, a cold knot forming in my stomach. They hadn't called on my birthday in nearly a decade. My mom continued, the fake cheeriness starting to crack. So, we hear you're doing really well for yourself. Your own company. We are so proud of you. There it was. The reason for the call. It wasn't about my birthday. It was never about me. Your father and I, we've hit a bit of a rough patch, she said, her voice dropping. And Clara, poor thing, she's just devastated. We were wondering, seeing as you're in a position to help, if you could just lend us a little something to get back on our feet. I listened. The years of neglect, of feeling invisible, of figuring it out all on my own, washing over me. I thought of every lonely birthday, every missed celebration, every time I needed them, and they weren't there. They weren't proud. They were desperate. They hadn't remembered my birthday. They had remembered my bank account. I took a deep breath, the cold knot in my stomach hardening into steel. No, I said. The word was quiet, but it was the loudest sound in the room. There was a shocked silence on the other end. But, we're your family, my father stammered. When I needed a family, you told me to figure it out. I replied, my voice steady. Now it's your turn. I ended the call. I didn't feel angry or triumphant. I just felt free. I looked around my apartment, at the life I had built for myself, piece by painful, beautiful piece. This was my family now. This success, this peace, this was my home. And I had figured it out, all by myself. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.